Let me show you something. This is an exact example of the moral hazard that one of our technicians, any mechanic anywhere, is going to face on a regular basis. This is a car, come in for an oil change. Customer's expecting about $100 to get an oil changed on his Mercedes. Comes in, on inspection, pick up a valve cover leaking right here. You can see the marks where it's leaking, dripping down onto an alternator, totally unsafe condition. This has to be remedied and has to be done immediately, really, to make sure that there isn't any kind of catastrophic event. Customer is looking for $100. Now we're up over $1,000, but it has to be dealt with. Let me give you an example of what a typical day would look like here. Somewhere in the course of any day in any repair shop, a customer is going to come in the door, someone who's been coming in for 10, 20, 30 years, and we're going to know the family, we're going to know the situation, and there's going to be some sort of impactful moment. Whether it's kids going to school or whether it's a death in the family or whatever it is, we'll know. And we're all people. We're all people. So the last thing that we're going to want to do on that particular day is present something that's extremely expensive, particularly when we know they're broke. They can't afford it. And then we're going to say, but you've got this problem with your brakes. And if you don't deal with this, you're going to have a difficult time stopping. So it is a real moral conundrum for us, though. What it comes down to is you present, as a quality mechanic, you present the needs of the car rather than the needs of the customer. And that is an understanding, I think, when it comes to surviving a full repair shop experience, understanding that this is the recommendation based on what the car needs rather than what I need. And now we can have a conversation on, okay, what is it that's within my ability, my economic ability to afford? So the biggest thing that I could say to anybody out there, that if you're looking for a quality shop, if you're looking for that shop that you feel comfortable in, the biggest difference between a killer repair shop and a guy who's just fixing your car is their ability to help educate and help you understand what's going on. There's a lot of stuff that we come in every day. We're doing things like brake shocks, engine management stuff. We're doing all kinds of computer issues. And it's easy for an automotive technician just to assume that everybody gets it. Fuel goes in, spark, and the car goes. Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but helping everybody understand where those dollars are going. If I spend this money, what is the improvement? Is it going to be improvement in fuel economy? Is it going to be improvement in drivability? Is it going to be a more comfortable drive? Is it simply to make the car more reliable, which is a good choice? Make the car more dependable. Am I less likely to have a breakdown if I do this? What if I use this part versus that part? So it all comes down to an educational process. So that's really what you're looking for when you're looking for a killer repair shop. And the way to survive that is just to be open and transparent with the technician. Say, listen, I've got this going on, my kid's getting married, I got kids going to school, or I got whatever it is, whatever those real world issues are, having that discussion saying, listen, this is my budget at the moment. Tell me what I can do with this $300 of the $500 limit that I've got here, and where should I be focusing? That type of conversation can really produce some results, really can protect your pocketbook and your budgeting plans, and really make the difference between your car lasting 10 years and 20 years. So when we're looking to keep this car on the road, we're looking to maintain it, one of the best things that we can do is get to the root cause of any of the problems that come up. For example, if the advice to you is like brake pads, we have to get to the brake pads, we have to change them, we'll put new ones on and you'll be good. Well, that's one level of advice. The other is, the brake pads aren't wearing evenly, so there's a problem here with the caliper. The caliper is not floating freely. It's either a sticking caliper or it's worn guide pins, something of that nature. We need to look at the caliper. Let's get that brake fluid out. Let's get brake pads on. Let's deal with this problem all at one time so that you're not back here a month from now or 2 months from now dealing with this same problem. That's how we effectively get the car repair cost down over the long term. And it's something that takes a little bit of determination, a little bit of cooperation, a little bit of a trust-based relationship between you and your mechanic for you to hear that stuff. Because the reality is it's just a lot easier to say, you know what, let's just do the minimum. Let's just get the car out. I got 2 or 3 more that are coming in anyways. We'll just bring another one and we'll get it out. No, you want to hear what does the car need, and you want to make a choice based on the information that you have. Here's a pro tip for you. If you're at a service center, if you're talking with a mechanic and that mechanic is talking to you about fluids, chances are you're in a good spot. Every mechanic will tell you that, good, clean, fresh fluid means longer service life of the components that are in that system. So when we're talking about things like transmission, dirty transmission fluid means slipping. It means hard shifting. It means torque converter problems. It means big expense coming later. No expense now if you don't do it, big expense later if you don't do it. It's not just transmissions. We also talk about things like coolant and brake fluid, any of those fluids. Coolant is one of those very perishable commodities. If you don't change your coolant 2 or 3 times over the life of the vehicle, it will not get as far as if it does when you do it every 2, 3 years. Same with brake fluid. These things the material inside that fluid is not the same as it was 15, 20 years ago. for all the guys my age that are driving a car thinking, you know what, I never change brake fluid. Well, guess what? If you don't do it now, big problems. That fluid now is hydroscopic, moisture gets in, it begins to change its properties. You get into heartbreaking situations with too much moisture, you won't be able to stop. You get corrosion problems, you get internal, problems in the calipers, in brake lines, all kinds of stuff. A good mechanic will say, get to those fluids. And when you've got a guy saying to you, look, we know there's an expense here, but it will pay dividends in the long run, chances are you're in the right spot. A really, really good mechanic is he always presents you with quality parts are better. OE quality parts are better, rather. If you're looking at a cost of a part and you're looking at it, am I going to do this job? And if I take it here, it's so much. And if I go across the street and this other guy, well, he's only going to charge me that much. Well, there's a much bigger consideration that goes along with that. Like, do you really want to be in a position where you're buying the same part 2 or 3 times for your car? If you go to an OE quality part, you'll know it because the mechanic will stand behind the work. He'll say, if I'm putting this part in the car, yeah, it's $10 more, $20 more for this part, but you know what? It comes with a lifetime guarantee. If this thing fails again, we'll put it in, we'll do it at our cost, and we'll give you the part for free. That is how you control your costs when you're servicing. Full service shops do that. The guy down the street does not do that. One of the great telltale signs of a great mechanic, one of the good things that you know, if you're in the right spot, you're gonna get something called the digital report. So this thing is a whole bunch of stuff done on the car. There's photographs, there's videos. There's usually like a good explanation that's backing up every suggestion or every maintenance recommendation that's made to you. There'll be a picture of it or a video of it, and there'll be a link to get, this is why it's important. This is what happens if you do it today. This is what happens if you leave it for a week. This is what happens if you leave it for a year. So you can make a decision that's fully informed based on budget, what you can afford, what you can't afford, and what it's going to cost if you do it or you don't do it. So without this device here, getting all that information that you need to decide for yourself the urgency of a repair, it comes down to a sort of an interpretation thing. So if you're in a great shop, you'll know it because you're getting digital information to help with your decision making. The truth here is, it's the biggest expense on this car is not a transmission failure. It's not an engine failure. It's not tires. It's not suspension. The biggest cost on this car is the depreciation of this car. It doesn't matter if we spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, keep going up to $100,000. It doesn't matter. Sooner or later, all these cars end up in a scrapyard somewhere, and all of that money is gone. It's just evaporated. The money for the car, the money for the maintenance, all of that stuff just disappears. The idea is to stretch that sort of investment out as long as possible and to get full use of all those capital dollars for as long as possible. So keeping a car on the road, dependable and reliable for the service life of the car is what a maintenance plan is really all about. So let me ask you this. We're talking about that moral hazard, that moral dilemma that we all face as mechanics in presenting that big expensive item or repair need on a car to somebody that we have somehow determined on arrival that their situation has changed. They simply don't have the economic wherewithal. They don't have the money. They're broke. But here's the $1,000, $2,000 item that must be. Is not telling them, is that a lie? Or is that just, being polite? Is that somehow more considerate, to not present you or anyone in that situation rather with this choice between doing nothing because you can't afford to do anything, and here's the safety concern of not doing it? Is it easier just to say, everything looks good today, Mrs. Smith, you're good to go? So my take on that is honesty is the only way to go. As uncomfortable as that is for everybody, as uncomfortable it is for the customer to hear it, as uncomfortable it is for one of my service team to be presenting that type of work, that message must be shared. It's as simple as that. It is absolutely a moral requirement that we get to the customer and say, okay, this is where we are. This is what the customer needs. Let's come up with a plan. Okay, so that's my thinking. I know there's a ton of auto repair shop owners out there. You got some great mechanics, great technicians, got some service advisors, we got some do-it-yourselfers, we got all kinds of car owners out there. This is just my take on how this stuff works. I love the conversation that comes out with some of these stuff. Get it down in your comments. Let's hear it. Let's hear what you think. Maybe you had a great time at a repair shop and you left paying way more than you thought you would, but it was still a great choice. Or maybe there's an example you have where you really thought you may have been overcharged or required to do something you didn't feel comfortable. Whatever it is, get it in the comments. Love to hear the discussion. Steve at the Auto Station.